I'm really running out of shirts here. What is up, guys? A lot of stuff has been confirmed through these little interviews that have been popping up. Aurora Peachy has an interview with Colin. Gamebreaker has an interview with Colin. MMO Huts have an interview with Colin. And then you have PC Gamer, which is probably one of the juiciest. A lot of buzzwords in there, but man, is it juicy. It's like when you just bite into a nice juicy peach and like the juice just kind of spills out all over. So we're mostly going to be talking about that article, but first I want to run through some of the stuff I've seen in a lot of the other interviews. Like of course Kantha was mentioned to Colin, and he gave the appropriate response of pause and look at you like you're crazy.
What are we planning on seeing that?
So before we get to the speculation and stuff, I'm going to toss us some of the confirmed stuff that we have speculated about already and we have talked about, just so you guys know and is up to speed. And of course, I will leave down in the description all these interviews and all this information so you can go check out some little tidbits yourself. The first up is the Gamebreaker interview. We found out that yes, we can switch between our new professions, our sub professions, our specializations, whatever you want to call it, you know, and so you don't have to be locked into one. You can always go to another, because in the future they'll be releasing some more specializations for each class. Another thing, specialization for the Revenant is confirmed. Yeah, that's right. So he's not going to just be some all-in-powerful god like in League of Legends, where they just release a god and he's like all-in-powerful for like 2 weeks until they nerf him. No, he's going to be just like everybody else, a guy with a specialization that you can kill, hopefully. And that goes well into the next interview with MMO Hunt, where they say in the Revenant is able to switch between Miss powers or Miss spirits, like the Dwarf King, which is kind of like a frontline tanky bunker type, which is pretty interesting. And then you can switch to the Demon Malix, where he can take conditions away from allies and spread it onto your enemies. Very cool stuff. It seems like it's going to be like the Elementalist or like the Guardian, where it has like a little bar where you can like switch between attunements, or in this case, mist powers. Ooh. Next up is Peachy, and she had an interview with Colin as well. As I say, I'm not going to cover everything in the interviews. You can go read, you can go, you know, do all that. I'm just giving you the tidbits so you can go watch them. And I'm going to give you my 2 cents on the big article. But in Peachy's video, they confirmed that, well, Colin confirmed that the expansion will pick up where the living story has left off. So you might want to catch up with season 2 if you're just getting into the game, or you know, you're coming back and you stop midway like I did, and catch up with the story. And hopefully we'll have some, you know, super adventure box in between now and then, in little small patches. But Peachy also asked him that, and he was a little bit dodgy on that, you know. It's like, oh, when, you know, there's a balance patch coming out. Yeah, well, that's cool, but still, we want some other stuff. Because I want stuff to talk about. But he also confirmed this and many other interviews that they're going to have a PAX East and Res demo, and then there's going to be a beta right after that. I have to put that in my brain, because I think I heard that information, but then I speculated on when it was going to happen last video. I don't know, like there's just so much information going in and out. I just been sucking it all in. It's a little bit crazy. Now we can talk about the juicy article that they had with PC Gamer, sharing and fleshing out a lot of the stuff that we kind of wanted to hear. We kind of wanted to hear a little bit more on stage, but we didn't get it. But now we can sit there and read it. And I know some of you guys will go and sift through and read it. And even though I'm telling you right now, some of you guys probably won't. But I'm gonna sift through and tell you my favorites and speculate on what was said. Some jumping puzzles might have been hinted at. Might have been. They were talking about the verticality of some of the maps. They're very deep, and they want players to keep coming back instead of it being like a player experience where, you know, you just kind of go in, you level up, and you move on to the next map. They want it to have some replay value, which I am game for, of course, with the mastery system and everything in play. But they say that you can climb the jungle, and you know, there's gonna be events on floors and stuff like that, and I just wonder how they're gonna pull that off. But they're also talking about the Silver Waste jumping puzzle and how they had like overlapped content, and it just makes me a little bit excited about how the next jumping puzzle is gonna be, because the Silver Waste jumping puzzle was one of my favorites, actually. It's been so, it was so long. I might have been deprived of a jumping puzzle for so long that I thought that one was so good, but still, I thought that was an adventure. Me and WP, we read stories. If you guys watched that video, we reread that our relationship. Right in between, I was going to get something to drink and stuff. It was great. It was a good time. I'll probably link that in if I remember. If anything, comment below and I'll remember to link that video of him. We're talking about some post on our relationship. It was great. It was great. We always have a good time. There was a question from PC Gamer to Mike O'Brien, saying, how are you so confident in the community saying no when you ask them about do you want leveling and gear grind? And I could just imagine him saying that and the audience be like, quiet. So quiet you can hear a pen drop, and you know, Jimmy the janitor in the back, you know, mopping and giving a cold cough. You know, those cold coughs, those random cold coughs when it's just really, really silent in the room. Yeah, that would have been a little bit embarrassing, especially if that cough picked up on live stream. That moment would have been just as good as that guy who had the big cojones to say, oh, PvE that doesn't suck. And then Jennifer Hale's just like, oh, let's ask the experts. Safari players out there, there was an interesting question about what they're gonna do with Safari, because Safari, why do I feel like I'm saying that wrong? So Safari are gonna be like an enemy because of Morjamoth, right? Taking over the Safari because they're made just for them, just to be controlled by the dragon. I was about to say the demon. Ra's al Ghul. I was watching the history of Ra's al Ghul, and I was reading up on it, comic book stuff. Anyways, and he goes on to say, anyone who doesn't have a Safari, you might want to go and level one up before the update, because we have something interesting planned for them, something that will wow everyone. Well, as I said, a lot of buzzwords, but what could they possibly do? They can't do factions or something like that. That's gonna be really interesting. Are they gonna get some secret skill? Are they gonna have some type of Jedi mind control? No, Morjamoth, you're not my father. What? Another thing that got me curious is when he was talking about the mastery system, and that he said that they took a lot of inspiration from the World v World system, level up system, with the mastery system. Of course, it's more advanced, he says, but this has me curious. Alright, so what if we, figuratively speaking, every time we level up we get like 1 mastery point or something like that, and we have a bunch of mastery points that we can then spend on this library of abilities and different traits that we can go into. Traits meaning, like, you know, different tiers, like, oh, put 5 into Quaggan Killer, right, to get the extra 2% damage, kind of like World v World does. Then I would definitely like to see a little bit more of them go like farther and have this huge, just huge, massive tree with a bunch of different branches. Like, you go to one tab and it's the monster killing branch, and then you go to another tab and it's the explorer branch where you get to level up the gliding, and whatever else you can level up a golem rider where you can ride a golem throughout the whole map. I don't know. This would be pretty cool to have this humongous library of stuff that you can level up. And he has said that you're going to be able to fight enemies better using this mastery points. So I'm guessing you can put an extra 2 points into Quaggan Killer or whatever and be able to do more damage against them. Interesting ideas. I hope there's a lot of options, so it's so big that it's impossible to complete in a short period of time. You would have to play for a very long time, and it'll be nice to see just like tons of points into like different styles. Like, oh, everyone has you know, went into, I don't know, farming these certain monsters, so they spent all their mastery points leveling up that so they can kill that monster as fast as possible, or being able to kill a boss quicker. It gives you some mastery points and you can put it into that. Really interesting ideas to see different builds. And the best thing is that this is all account bound, right? So this is going to be on all your characters, including the abilities that you unlock. This is not necessarily a confirmation, but he said this before, and you guys might have heard this, that the specializations are not just going to be a weapon and elite skill and a set of utility skills. It's gonna be something different. It's gonna change your character mechanically. And he says it again in this interview, that it's gonna feel like a newer version of your class. It's gonna feel like a secondary class. It's gonna feel like a subclass. He mentions all these words, and he doesn't give any examples. I want to know, what am I gonna be able to do, right? He mentions the ranger druid, and not being able to use the skills unless you're a druid, but as soon as you're a druid, you can use the old ranger skills. He says a lot of them, so I don't know if technically he's saying that some of them won't be used or some of them won't be will be changed. And he also says that the traits will be different. So are there new traits, or it's gonna be a different trait tree? Man, it's this. I think I am going to be surprised when they release this, because it's going to be interesting that when we finally get this update, that is probably going to be a very new experience. I'm thinking of moving away from my Guardian and playing something harder, and my Guardian might actually become harder. It might become a different class that, you know, I can do some interesting stuff with. You know, what if my character all of a sudden gets a 25% boost in speed by being of the Deathbringer or whatever you guys have mentioned in the comments? You know, him changing his role totally from the Guardian to someone who does a lot of damage all of a sudden. But then they take away some of his support. I wonder if they would do that. Are they going to take away skills when we go over? Because he says a lot of skills will be useful from your previous class, but he doesn't say all of them. So maybe that's just how he worded it, but I don't know. Guys. A lot of stuff to speculate on, a lot of cool things, man. I hope you guys enjoyed the video of me just going crazy over this. I hope you guys are excited as much as I am. I haven't been excited like this in a while. You guys know me. If something's not exciting, you ain't gonna see me at all, you know. And I feel like they're moving the game in direction that I like. And it was so sad for me to see it just go through all these just living story updates, but what they've been doing is just holding out on us. They've just been holding out, just waiting and working on this expansion this whole time. And they say they have it all put together, something that was also mentioned. They have it all put together now, and that's why they want to wait until they had it all together to announce it. And now they're in the beta phase. So in 6 months, we're gonna see the juicy goods, and before then, I'm sure they're gonna release some more information. Until then, and I will be here to talk about it with you guys, and we can all discuss. Which reminds me of the Q&A that we're gonna have next time. That's definitely gonna have to be next time. I shall be recording that. Anyways, guys, I hope you guys have a good night. Well, it's night here. I'm recording this at like 1 o'clock because I had a very busy day, but I want to make sure I had a nice video for you guys in the morning, my time. It's gonna be evening for you UK people and Neverlands and all those. Oh, man, I can't keep track of all you guys' time. Anyways, guys, stay visual and stay safe inside. I don't know. Just go to the. Bye.